Okay, good afternoon, folks. How you doing?
Good afternoon.
Okay, today we're gonna continue with Unit 3. What does a conversation class look like? In the previous class, we were discussing about some techniques that we can use to be more interested in an English class, a classroom, right? And I don't know if you got time for reading the case number 1, that it was about a conversation class in Chile. Do you got a chance to read? Azucena, did you read it?
Yes, I think so.
Could you please tell me what do you understand for that, or how do you think that a conversation class is in Chile?
I'm not sure, teacher.
We're not sure. Okay, just let me refresh your mind that according to the document that we have in the previous session, in the previous class, in the session number 7, says that when the teacher comes into a classroom, the whole student are there sitting down in a semicircle waiting for the teacher. They are very punctual. And when the teacher comes into the classroom, everybody stands up and say hello. And here we have another case that it's a number 2, conversation in class in Portugal. So we're not gonna read it, but I would like you to listen to you. How can you imagine a conversation class in Portugal? Can you imagine that, Azucena? How could be
No,
a
because I don't know
conversation class
Portugal.
in Portugal? Sorry?
No, because I don't know that language.
Okay, imagine that you're in Portugal. How would it be your first English class, your first conversation class there? How would you do it? Which terms or with which things would you take into account?
I don't know, presenting myself, asking the class to present themselves,
What else?
and maybe creating an activity for everyone to speak.
For example, which activity? Can you mention some of them or something that you got inside?
I don't know, something that they like or that they don't like. Ask them to talk about that.
Okay. In this document that you're seeing on the screen, we have the case number 2 that we have a conversation class in Portugal. It's with adults. It is a private language school. Okay. There is something important here that they take into account, and it is especially when they're improving or developing speaking, they prefer to take some topics related to their reality. They don't like to look for some controversial topics or topics that belongs to another country. They don't like that. They prefer to talk about the things that they are living in their country. What do you think? That's really interesting or not? Let me see something here that I would like to share with you that we have. Okay, we have this one. I'm gonna read a little bit. The popular impression in Portugal and in other countries, in my experience, is that a student can improve his or her English conversation skills simply by doing in the same way that a runner can increase his strength and stamina by running every day. However, doing is not the same as building, and his realization gets the students to rethink how they study English. The desire to have an open conversation skill runs strong, and I didn't abolish it completely since the student found the chaotic back and forth of a lively discussion both fun and satisfying. Part of their learning experience has to be the understanding that building skills is just as important as practicing them. Thus, a good recipe for successful teaching here includes a teacher with good training in and knowledge of ESL, grammar, and other learning needs such as vocabulary and pronunciation. What do you think that? Do you think that the speaking is just, as the text said, it just by doing the things, just like a drills, repetition, some things, and that's enough. That's gonna be the role of the teacher. That's the achievement that the teacher wants to reach. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you, but I don't know.
You
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure.
Right, I'm gonna give you some cue. Imagine that you are in front of the audience and you're making some activities for the student to speak, to develop speaking skills, and you notice that some of them have serious problems in pronunciation. My question is, would you keep on working on those students, or you only reach the objective at that moment and that's all?
No, obviously not. I would have to give feedback about pronunciation.
Yes, but would you do it just at that class, or you keep on working during the
Well, every
semester, the midterm?
year. Yeah, of course.
What about the rest? How many students we have here? Hello, Najelis. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Right, sure. Fine, you?
Do you agree with Maciel?
Yeah, I'm agree
Why?
because it's important to practice.
Okay. Do you know that the teaching in our country, or if we compare teaching in different countries, it's gonna be completely different, right? Do you think that this is because of the culture, or it's a part of the culture that we need to take into account or not? Have you have you have you ever been to another country? Nayelis, Maciel, have you ever been to? Or if you have watched on news on television, the way of teaching in different countries, because if we compare the case number one, that it's related to the conversation class in Chile, is totally different from Portugal. It's very different. For example, in Chile, for developing speaking, you can use controversial topics. You can use whatever topic you want. Okay. The objective is a student to speak. But in Portugal, it's totally different. In Portugal is different, and in this country, you can talk about another countries, no matter. They are able to speak, they are able to talk, to discuss about whatever topic. But in Chile, they only prefer to talk about the reality that they live in their countries. They don't are interested. They are not interested in learning what happened in another country. They want to know more about their countries. Okay, this session is gonna be short, and for ending, I've got a question. I just one question for you, and I would like to listen to you for participating. Okay, let's see. How would you teach a conversation class in our country? You are an English teacher. Imagine that you're teaching in an English major. So how would you do it? How would you teach it? Speaking. With this, we're gonna end the session, right? What about Odalis, Mario Odalis Lopez? How would you do it? We were comparing at the beginning the first case that was in Chile, and now the conversation class in Portugal. That we are pretty sure that is totally different from ours. So how would you do it? How would you teach a conversation class here in Nicaragua? Azucena, Nayelis, Mario Dalis. As I told you before at the beginning, folks, at the beginning when we started with the first session, you can be connected, but if you don't participate, remember that we have only 5 points for attendance and participation. The class is not grammar. The class is not writing. The class is not reading. The class is speaking. So we need to speak. What about you, Monsieur?
But I'm the only one who participates.
Of
So I
course.
think that the rest of the guys should participate.
Defend yourself. As I told you before, we only have 5 points for participation. If the rest of the classmates don't participate, either scores. You heard my question?
How would I give a speaking class? A conversation class?
Yes. How would you do it here in our country?
But it's just that I don't know what you mean with that because there are many ways in which
How would you develop? How would you teach oral communication in our country? Let's suppose that you are in front of an audience who's taking English major.
Well, then I would teach the topic I have to teach that day, and then I will create an activity for them to develop their speaking skills. Maybe through a presentation. Maybe ask them to talk about a specific topic or explain what they understood from the topic.
If you had a talk about cultures, which cultures would you take into account?
Both the one in the country I'm in and the one that corresponds to the country of the language that I'm teaching.
In this case of our country, right?
Yeah, of course, because we need to understand the culture of the people that live in the country of the language that we're teaching. It's not only about knowing the language, but understanding their culture.
Right. What about Najelis? You haven't spoken today, Najelis. Give me your opinion. How would you teach it?
For me, it's the same teacher because the first is select the topic and then create an activity to develop the class or the teaching.
Could you please give us an example about
Okay,
that
for
activity that
example,
you mentioned?
okay, for example, create an activity about mm, a
Uh-huh.
dialogue to change about culture the same to the Maciel because we need to know about our culture.
Okay, okay. Okay, just let me remind you that here we have some videos that probably can be useful for you. For example, we have 6 ways to improve your speaking fluency, ELT speaking, better connectors, better fluency, how to build a step-by-step language study plan. Is all something interesting. This, and we have some exercise. Okay, here we have the exercise corresponding to the session 8 today, right? Keep on working on that and see you next session. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.
That's all for
Bye,
today.
teacher.